Podcasters Roundtable round 126. Are you feeling burned out? So we're going to cover the issue. I feel like it's a trendy topic, and you're seeing YouTube videos. Popping up like every day, like I'm quitting or I'm burnt out or what that means. And really, this topic came to be because, as per usual, I'm scrambling last minute, putting together a roundtable. You see, there's only three of us. I've been I've been trying forever to get a particular roundtabler onto the show for the first time. I got him, and he's currently dealing with this. So it comes from his own suggestion, and that's really how the roundtable works. Anyways, it's built by the people. All right. Speaking of America. All right, so let's meet those roundtablers. Dave, co-host, welcome back.
Yeah, glad to be here. This is we were talking earlier. I'm like, this is fitting me rather perfectly right now as I get ready to go to New York and then Florida and submit my thing for podcast movement and blah blah blah. So yeah, Dave Jackson from the School of Podcasting.com.
Very cool. Thanks for knowing how to fill the air to give me enough time to take a sip of my
I was
beverage.
watching. I'm like, is he done with the sipping?
The beauty of video is we can communicate non-verbally. Podcasters communicating non-verbally. What is that about?
It's crazy.
First time roundtabler, I think. Bandrew, welcome.
Yeah. Thank you very much. My name is Bandrew. I run a YouTube channel called Podcastage, and God forbid it, I am on a condenser microphone today. What is happening? I'm not on the SM7B.
I am speaking into your favorite chosen mic. It's on the logo, or it was at some point, or it's in your show art. There's somewhere.
Somewhere.
Yeah, you're like known for it, but you were happy when I made the switch. And
very
I'm enjoying
happy.
the microphone. It's a good microphone. I did a whole episode on the Podcaster Studio about it, so I don't need to talk about it here. But Bandrew, yeah, it's funny because your channel, so everything I consume of you is via YouTube. And I even said today when we were sending DMs about this round, like, is your stuff even available in the feed? And I know when I first found your channel, I was very confused by the name because it was Podcastage. I was like, oh, this is podcast content. And then it was like gear stuff. So I was like, okay, totally related. But I'm like, where's the podcast?
Mm-hmm.
Where's the podcast? So where is the podcast?
There's a separate channel that I made for that. When I first launched the channel, I had intended to do both podcasts, gear reviews, do a bunch of stuff.
Oh, now we know the problem. Now we see how we got to this topic.
Yeah. But the variety channels on YouTube don't really work that well. So I opted to, after trying to put my show on the Podcastage channel and seeing that it was not doing well and it was hurting the distribution of my other videos, I launched a standalone podcast channel called Bandrew Says. Not the best name for a podcast because only people who know me are going to find it, but I launched a separate channel. And for all the podcast police out there, yes, there is an RSS feed. That's how it started. So it is technically a podcast.
And that's Dave. The siren was about to light. There's lights and sirens were coming down the road. I could hear it. It was going to be bad news for you. Dave kicking in the door. Bam.
And it is on Libsyn.
Oh,
so there you go. Even better.
That. Now he's just playing to the crowd. This is ridiculous.
Know your audience. That's the first rule.
Yes. All right. Well, hey, we do have three hosts. I mean, pretty much almost everyone that comes on this podcast is a host, I think. So I'm expecting you guys to help sort of host this round, drive this conversation, because it is different. We're not doing stories today. We're just going to tackle this topic. And Bandrew came up with another topic, so it may lead into that as well, which has to do with YouTube and podcasts. So, dude, true spirit of the roundtable, we're just podcasters getting together to chat about the thing we love. So that's what we're doing. Going back, Bandrew, for a second there, where you talked about you switched to a podcast specific channel for your podcast, and you said something along the lines of the variety channels don't do well. So
yeah,
do you mean it didn't do well for your audience? It's not good YouTube strategy? What do you mean by it doesn't do well to mix it up on a YouTube channel like that?
Okay, so there have been a lot of discussions recently between YouTube gurus and a lot of actual evidence from YouTubers who try to do variety channels that it actually does harm the distribution of your videos if they change too much. If the topics are,
algorithm is harmed, or what's harmed?
yeah, the algorithm, it's not intentionally saying this is a variety channel, let's kill it. What is happening is you're gaining an audience for one type of video. In my perspective or in my experience, it is microphone reviews. That's what people come to watch. Then when they see a podcast, an hour and a half long or an hour long video of me just ranting about random tech, they're not expecting that and they don't watch that long. So the watch time is decreased quite significantly from my regular videos. And that tells the YouTube algorithm his audience doesn't like what he's doing. Let's not distribute this to new people. So the YouTube algorithm doesn't differentiate between the series that you're doing on your channel. Every single video you upload is directly inputting information into the algorithm. And if you have a video that doesn't do well, that will harm the distribution of your following video. So that's what was happening. I was uploading content people weren't expecting.
Yeah, this podcast, which is recorded here live on YouTube, was originally on my YouTube channel. I just mixed it in. I mean, it's related, right? We're talking about podcasting. In theory, I'm probably more known for DSLR type video stuff, but I do podcast tutorials there as well. What I noticed is that because I moved it off to its own channel, it's only now youtube.com/podcasters roundtable. You should be over there. I think we're probably at 7. We might have hit 700. I tweeted out that we were like right on the precipice of hitting 700. We might be there now. Anyways, numbers don't matter. And I moved it off because what I was seeing is that I was getting more views for this content, but I was equally losing, like when I'd release a Podcasters Roundtable and I'd lose a ton of subs. So it was a trade-off. Like, do I want to expose that audience? I was picking up people. So it really was kind of a question of, are those quality pickups? Like I was amazed that the people who were watching my channel were interested in coming over to the roundtable, or they would say, I had no idea this podcast existed. I love it. But at the same time, I'd lose like 30 subscribers. So I kind of had to choose. So, and as a consumer of YouTube, I generally have an idea of what I want from a channel when I go to it, right? And so I was like, all right, we'll move it off. We'll just make it its own thing. So it is an interesting question. Look at that. We've actually I think we started with the topic I said we might lead into instead of the lead off topic. Classic roundtable fashion. Just throw the script out the door. There's no script. All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about burnout because I think people in the chat are interested in this. Yes. And I see Sean McCabe. He's in there. He's a great YouTuber as well. He said sabbaticals helped him avoid burnout. But I'm curious, what was my first question? What were the first signs? So Dave, first of all, raise your hand if you've experienced burnout. I'm raising my hand. Bandrew's got his up. And Dave, we all feel like we've experienced this. So when when were the first signs that you said, I might be burning out here? How long ago and what were those signs?
Well, just like right now, I'm in like mid burnout.
Is this the first time though you felt that?
No,
like, you've been going forever.
For me, it's stupid mistakes. Like you wake up in the morning and they're like, hey, do you know your show notes have like just boatloads of typos? And you're like, well, that's funny because I remember fixing those. And it turned out I had like 3 WordPress windows open and did it on one, but somehow it didn't save or whatever. So just stupid mistakes like that. Or you forget an appointment like you scheduled with somebody and you didn't put it on your calendar, or just little things you're like, this is things that make you look unprofessional. For me, the other one is my desk. My desk is a great indicator of how things are going. And right now I can't see mine. Because when things are going good, I'm neat and tidy and ready to go. My weight's another one because when I'm getting burnout, a lot of stuff coming through my driver's side window that does not help. But I'm thinking it's going to be faster. And if you actually do the math on that, it's not. By the time I drive to Burger King, wait in the drive-through, come back, go through all the red lights and get back, I could have easily made my own dinner, but it's fast food, but it's not. So these are just some of the things. But the one for me, and then just this afternoon, I ate lunch and fell asleep in a chair. That's a pretty big red flag, and it's weird because this is going to happen. So like you set an alarm on your phone in case you fall asleep because like you don't want to wake up at 3 and go, wow, I was supposed to be back at work 2 hours ago. So those are some things for me that I just go, and it's the thing that sucks is when hey, wow, I'm getting crispy. and you've got another 2 weeks of just keep your nose to the grindstone.
What is crispy?
And
Do you just mean there's like a ton of high end in your microphone?
that's it. It's a lot of that. It's I need a de-esser really bad. But no, just things where we were joking earlier. It's the old saying, right? Your brain writes checks that your body can't cash, kind of thing, where you look at your schedule and you go, that's going to be a little busy, and then you're just like halfway through and going, ugh. So that's me. How about you, Bandrew?
To be honest, my audience knew before I did. That's something that I think a lot of people don't think about. Your audience is incredibly smart and perceptive. And I would see an increasing number of comments saying, hey, you feeling all right there, man? You feeling okay? And I was like, you know what? Maybe I'm not. Maybe I have too much on my plate. But then the day job just keeps getting more stressful. Then there's just not as much joy in it as there was at the beginning. And it's like, well, why am I even doing it then? I don't want to stop making reviews or making podcasts. So what can I do to resolve this issue? And it seems like I began dreading making a second video every single week because I was so exhausted. I felt like I didn't have anything new to say. I had not had time to contemplate what the next microphone really was. I was just going through the motions. So I feel like it was a mix of a loss of enjoyment in actually making the content, but also the audience knowing and telling me, hey, you doing okay, man? Because they could see I was looking exhausted and I was just speaking more monotone and just seemingly bored with the stuff I was making.
Yeah, that's an interesting one when you say the audience noticed, because we always hear like, hey, don't shill stuff that you don't believe in, and your audience can tell and it's not genuine. And oftentimes I'll think, how true is that, right? Like, can an audience really tell? And
100%.
very interesting to hear. Well, I mean, you're on YouTube, so you have this extra element of visual. You're saying, oh, you look tired, which is always the best when someone says, man, you look tired. You're like, thanks, bud. Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
It's just getting old. It's just lines from smiling too much. All right. I smile a lot. Leave me alone. But you have that extra element on an audio only podcast. I think it would be harder to tell, but maybe not. Maybe people can hear it in your presentation style. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Sean McCabe in the chat, he says, this is the burnout litmus test. If you're wondering whether you're burned out, you already are.
Yeah.
So if you start thinking about it, if the question's popping in your mind, there's a reason, right? And so I guess a little bit about that reason. Do you think you can pinpoint the cause in your case? So Bandrew, do you think you can pinpoint the cause of what made you feel burnt out?
I think I can. And this is going to sound it's a standard answer, I think, but it came down to me starting to compare myself to others. I was looking at other YouTubers and podcasters and thinking, I need to do everything that they're doing because they are so much more successful than I am. But then when I started to get increasingly more tired and lose a little bit of enjoyment in what I was doing, I took a step back and realized, what am I doing? I am a single person. I work a day job. These are people who do this full time and they have entire teams. So it's all began with me looking at these certain communities on YouTube and saying, look at how much they're doing. Look at how successful they're being. Look at how they're capitalizing on the news in this way. I need to do that too. You don't need to. You're all different people. Every single creator has a different workload. Every single different creator has different standards. We can't all do what MKBHD does. We can't all do what John Prosser and Front Page Tech does because we don't do this full time, at least not all of us, and we don't all have an entire team behind us supporting us in that.
I don't think that most people know that or not. And when I first got into podcast, I thought, wow, these guys there must be somebody. They must have a team. And I find out it's just one dude in a basement. And I'm like, wow, impressed. So sometimes you can't tell. I would say a lot of times your audience they may assume wrongly that this is what you do for a living, right? So, hey, Bandrew should have a video every week. Like I watch, I subscribe. I buy stuff from his affiliate links. Why the heck is there not a video here? And I don't know if, because if you are professional, if you present yourself professionally, if you are consistent, people don't know. They don't know what goes behind that. So I'm always curious, like, what do people think of content producers and what is sort of behind that? And a lot of this audience knows that it's a grind to do this
Yeah.
all the time, and they know what they're putting into it. But I don't think the majority of the audience in general that's not content creators has any idea. All right. So it can be hard to understand when your next video comes out and says, I'm burnt out. This
Yeah,
stuff is tough.
It was interesting. I didn't make a video on it. I just did a community post on YouTube. And then on that note, somebody left a comment saying, but you hardly release any videos. And I was like, man, I got a full-time job, but I do a podcast. Get off my back. I said it much more civilly, and I wasn't rude to the guy, but I just explained that this isn't my full-time job, so you can't expect me to be as prolific as other people.
For free content.
Yeah. Have you heard the new Ron Burgundy podcast, Will Ferrell? And it sounds like it's him and some woman that I've never heard of, off mic, by the way, which drives me nuts. And it sounds like you're thinking Will Ferrell is a improv genius as they're going through this whole thing, and they get to the end, and I think it was 9 different people help write that thing. It's
okay.
Thank you for that, blah, blah, blah. And one of the names was not Will Ferrell, which I thought was weird. It's like, our head writer is so-and-so. And I was like, well, that explains why that was funny, because there were 9 people working on it.
It's amazing how many comedians have a writing team behind them. I found this out a little bit on a tour I was doing. And I was like, you have a writer that helps. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, nice.
I think the other thing that leads to burnout is bright, shiny syndrome. So it's like, ooh, this is fun. If 1 vitamin is good, 2 vitamins must be great. 3 must be, oh my God, I'm going to be Superman. And so you keep adding one more little thing, and you don't think about it in the long run. Like, I've started so many shows that were supposed to be tests. I mean, Ask the Podcast Coach was supposed to last a month. And then people are like, no, keep it here. And then, so you worry about.
That's just your excuse to start, right, Dave? You're like, you tell yourself, it's just going to be a test.
That's it. And then you think about, okay, I'm only going to do this for a short period. And then you get sucked into, and this, I have to watch how to say this, but you don't want to let down your audience.
Yeah, no, that's legit. I mean, we definitely want to talk about that, because I feel like most people go on because of the audience. They don't put themselves first. I think you have to be a little selfish in this process. And by a little, I mean, probably a lot. So we'll talk about that. Keep going, Dave. Remind me.
But, I had a show called Weekly Web Tools. And when I first started podcasting, everything I did got a podcast. So I was doing web design a little bit. So I did this show, the DIY Webmaster. It's a weekly web tool. And I really thought my audience was going to chime in. And they didn't, until every time I threatened to quit, I'm like, hey, I'm getting kind of crispy on this. I think I'm going to let it go. And then here would come a big surge, and that would keep me going. And I just remember the last episode, I'd spent about 3 hours, and I just had reviewed everything that I wanted to review. I was like, there's nothing new here. And I just said, I think we're done. And it just dawned on me that I finally found something, but it wasn't like something I'd be like, wait till you hear about this cool tool. It's like, all right, well, this will do. And I just thought, I'm not spending hours to put out, all right, here you go. And so I just went, we're done with this. I got other things I could be doing with 3 hours worth of time that is resulting in So that was one I just had to go. And the hundreds of people that were listening to that, I just said, hey, I've got like 18 billion other shows over here. If you need a Dave fix, come find me over here. And I, and to the best of my knowledge, my house was not set on fire. Nobody's punched me in the face. The sun came up the next morning. So
being busy or adding new content to an already existing lineup, or even one podcast of, a lineup of content, feels like a content creator dilemma. Like we have ideas and we want to do new things. It's how we got started. If you last any amount of time, it's because you have ideas and you do them, right? I am curious, does burnout have to equal being busy or having too much to do, right? So are the only people that can be burnt out are people who are doing podcasts and a YouTube, they're tweeting, they're blogging, you know what I mean? Like, have 3 podcasts, or can a podcaster or a blogger or YouTube, anyone just have one thing and it burn out. What does
Yeah.
burnout really mean? Or I don't know. It's not mean. I think it's relative, right? I don't think it matters how much you have to do. It does. I feel like when people say burnout, you just assume, oh my gosh, that person's doing too much. Maybe doing too much. I guess it could be one. I don't know what I'm asking here. What do you guys think of that?
Yeah, I think it really does depend on the person's capability of multitasking or at least handling stress. I
Stress.
know that I do not handle stress well. I internalize it.
So do I. That's what the psychiatrist told me. And I said, how do I fix that? And he said, you got to figure it out.
It's like, thanks.
That doesn't help me at all. That doesn't help me at all.
So I do think it differs from person to person. It is all relative. And somebody with just one project can easily burn out if they have a stressful day job. That 1 hour per week that they put into their show, or those 3 hours, that could be what's necessary for them to keep an equilibrium, keep that last bit of sanity that they're hanging on to. Speaking from personal experience here.
Because I don't want to confuse burnout with pod fade, because there are times when like I've got tons of energy, I'm not busy at work, I'm not stressed out, I just don't want to talk about this anymore. You know, and I want to go talk about something else.
So that's not burnout. You got bored with the subject.
Yeah, that's just boredom. But this is like, I would love to do more. I've got 17 plates spinning, and I'm thinking about starting an 18th. That's when you're like, and you're just
okay.
So for me, at least, that's what it is.
What are the effects of burnout then? Okay, if it's not boredom, it's not just, and I don't have a topic, and I'm forced to pick one because hey, it's the next week. How does burnout manifest if it's not just I just don't want to talk about this? For you, how did it manifest? You're like, I need to go to bed or I'm going to just cry. Like, what, you know what I mean? How does it manifest?
Well, I've done both of those, but it's
I cry in bed with a beer in my hand. So that's
exactly. For me, I find myself at a refrigerator or grabbing yet another protein bar, and I'm not the least bit hungry.
Oh,
but I'm like, and it's like, especially when it's like, yeah, exactly. And Ray's holding up protein
thumbnail.
Bars, yeah.
Bandrew, this is a thumbnail right here, buddy.
And so when I find myself, and usually when that is, it's when I'm getting ready to record, and I'm like, I'm not sure if this is really grade A material. I'm kind of like, I've done a lot of research. I guess this is as good as it's going to get. And I'm just like, So for me, I think sometimes, and it just results in stress. Or you wake up at 4 and you're like, holy crap, it's 4. And then you hear your hard drive in your brain start to spin, and you're like, no spinning. And they're like, oh, dang it, I'm awake now. And then it's like, here we go. We're going to start brainstorming about next week's episode. So for me, it's stress and lack of sleep. How about you, Bandrew?
I think this may seem melodramatic, but it's this overwhelming sense of dread. Just everything seems too much to handle. I would wake up and then I'd be dreading going to work. When I was leaving work, I'd be dreading having to jump in and make another video. I'd be dreading having to research a microphone or do any of these things. And it's not for the lack of me enjoying talking about audio gear, because I love that stuff. It is just, I didn't have the mental capacity to take on any more or do it another day. I needed to be able to watch some freaky horror film to put everything in perspective, where I could just say, you know what, at least I'm not being murdered in my day-to-day life.
I think it's, would you say it's kind of, you lose some of your sharpness maybe?
Yeah, I definitely think that is the case, because when I get in that position, and I am sure a lot of creators would agree with this, it's you start to let a few things slide. It's just, oh, that's good enough. You're not up to your usual standard. And that's when I think you risk alienating your audience. So it may actually be beneficial for your career, for your show, for your YouTube channel, whatever it is, to take a break or take a step back, or in my case, reduce your release schedule so you have some time to decompress and spend that extra time to relax, get some sanity back, and then start working on the next one. You have a little bit more time to focus on stuff. And then also a cool thing about taking some time for yourself is you may find some inspiration, and that'll get you excited about it again. But if you're constantly just grinding and grinding and grinding, you don't have time for yourself. You don't have time to find new things to be excited about because it becomes such a routine. And that's something that I'm finally starting to get to the point where it's like, oh, yeah, I remember. I liked listening to music. What is that? I liked playing guitar. What in the world?
Hey, while you're in Spotify, you might find another great podcast. You're welcome, Spotify. That's just a little promo for you.
I don't use Spotify.
Yeah, me either. Heather in the chat says it's exhaustion, feeling broken, feeling out of control. And, Bandrew, you said dread is very good description. Like, I'm like, oh, I dread looking at my email because it really is. It becomes an avalanche of stuff that is you're just trying to hold off, right? And then when you back off a little bit, it piles up even more, right? So like, is burnout created by ourselves, or is there something about being a content creator or the audience? I mean, obviously it's it's from us. We're putting our own pressure on ourselves, but there's people who start a podcast and are like, we're the daily tech show. But probably a bad place to start, right? Burnout's going to happen. It's inevitable. Like, you can't commit to anything for every day, every week, and just when there's no end defined, we're just going to do this thing and we're going to do it till whenever. Like, that's tough. So where do you think there's any external pressures that come with burnout? Like, is there a reason why we're pushing so hard? Does it all come from within, I would think, or is there something external? If we don't show up every week, does our show drop, right? Do we not is the algorithm going to punish us, right?
That's the answer. We're all worried. Like, what happens if we never take our foot off the gas? We have no idea what will happen if we take our foot off the gas.
Except all of us have, I believe. Well, Dave, I don't know if you take your foot off the gas ever, but
no, I haven't.
You're too scared.
Well, I mean, when you hit a deer on the way home and you're recording your podcast at 2 a.m. in a hotel because you haven't missed a Monday in 12 years, that's a problem. That's where it's like, I think and that's the thing I always tell people.
Do you recognize that as a problem?
Yeah.
Do you think that's a problem? Do you think that's a problem?
Yeah. Because here's the thing. If your audience truly knows, likes, and trusts you, and they go, hey, Dave, where's the show? And you go, oh, I hit a deer on the way home. Sorry. They're not going to go, oh, that's it, man. I'm unsubscribing. If they truly like you, they're going to, oh, my, whatever, grandma died again, or whatever the thing is. If you have a connection with your audience, they're going to understand that, sorry, I chopped off my foot with a whatever, they're going to like. So I think but we always we don't want to let them down. And I think that's part of being a content creator is at the core, it's you're serving an audience. I want to help them. I want to show them this cool tool or whatever. And so we don't want to let them down. But, if we went back to the old flight instructor, right, you have to put the air mask on the child first before putting on you. You got to take care of you. Or no, is that backwards? You put it on you before putting on the kid.
Yeah, better put it on
I got that backwards. Yeah.
If you pass out, you can't put the mask.
Yeah, you can't put it on the kid. Yeah.
Also,
so you gotta take.
Also, Dave's grandma's a cat. She has 9 lives. That's amazing. She's 2 lives gone.
Grandma Bernie.
Grandma. She's amazing. Yes. Did I ask? Oh, so Sevilla in the chat, former roundtabler. If you're in the chat, you're a roundtabler. So I don't know why I say that, but she says, wow, really needed to hear this topic tonight. I'm going to 1 episode a month starting in March, and I was feeling like such a loser. I'm totally worried about the algorithm. I'm about to find out.
Well, and this is where Bandrew what are your options? Cut back your schedule,
right? Or
cut back the length of your show. Now, Bandrew does. What's he going to do? Half a review? That's not going to work.
Those would be amazing.
Here's the microphone. This is what it looks like. I'll tell you about the rest next week. See ya. No, that's not going to work.
That could work.
I had somebody suggest I do that.
No. Here's what it looks like. Part 2 is coming next Wednesday. Tune in.
Don't do the actual review part. Just do the tests and then shut up. Like, oh, okay. You don't want the review part. Thanks.
Got it. Squeaky wheel. Did I ask what the difference between pressure and burnout is? Is there a difference? The feeling of pressure, or does the feeling of pressure lead to burnout? I guess is the question.
I think pressure leads to burnout, and
the pressure comes from back to the question I was trying to ask. Where's the pressure come from?
I think it's both internal and external. I think we have these expectations for where we want to be, what we measure our success to be, and then we have these tools that we use to get there. In my instance, or in my case, it's YouTube. And YouTube has an algorithm that we have to please, but we also have the audience. And something that I was surprised by, something that kept me going when I was feeling burned out, was fear of disappointing the audience, thinking that if I said I'm going to take a step back and slow down, I would get hate. I received some of the nicest comments that I've ever received. It's amazing how much your audience will support you if you're honest with them and just say, you know what? I still love doing this. I want to continue to do it, but I need to slow down for a bit and get to a point where I feel like I'm mentally able to continue to do it. But I think it's both internal and external, because we got to appease the YouTube gods. We need to make sure that it's very easy to abuse your audience's trust and say, okay, well, they allowed me to take this one break. I'm going to take a break every single week or every single month. When you get to that point, then it becomes, I think that is when you'll start to lose support from your audience, if you start to abuse that give and take relationship that you have with them.
It's an interesting question, because I tend to just stop doing things and then throw stuff down the feed when it's available. I mean, the podcaster studio, I mean, the audience is great. It's very irregular at this point. And
So
go ahead, Dave.
what has that done to your numbers?
Nothing.
See, that's
So if you
good
want to
know.
test, that doesn't mean it applies to anyone. It probably does mean I have not grown to the level that who wants. I don't know. I don't do advertising. Like, who cares? Like, if you like the show, you're subscribed, you listen. Cool. I've never understood the idea of unsubscribing to something you love just because the person wasn't there regularly. It's time shifted. Like, if something shows up, ooh, cool. Now I get it. I have my favorite podcast, and if they're not there on Monday, because that is the one I listen to religiously, I'm pretty disappointed. But interesting question, David. I don't see that it's done anything. Dare I say it's helped, because there's that one episode sits at the top longer and it just has more time to be
Right.
consumed. Don't
But
get me wrong. I don't think that's a good thing, but
from a listener of your show, when I see one, I actually jump. Like, I'll look in. I'm like, I go to my podcasting category in Overcast, and I'm like, oh wow, there's a thing from Ray right to the top of the list, because you only put out stuff when you have something to say, as
Yeah.
opposed to, well, it's Thursday and I promised one every Thursday, so today I don't know, but we'll think of something. No, I'm done. I'm ejecting already.
And
So I think that's why your numbers maybe haven't gone down, is you put out really good stuff.
maybe, thank you. And yet I marvel at your ability to be there with the School of Pie. Oh, just always there. And it brings a sense, it's comforting. I'm like, oh, well, there's always the School of Podcasting. Like, it'll be there. Like, if I need to listen. And
Like
it's
a
good.
warm blanket.
It doesn't feel phoned in. I mean, we're in the same niche, and
Yeah.
I'm like, he just keeps coming up with stuff, and it's fantastic. And half the time I'm like, yeah, I don't want to cover news or something like that, but you do a great job there. So, because of that, I'm thinking, as I stall looking for the thought that I had, just inserting words into
Well,
a microphone.
just to peel back the curtain, it's Thursday, and I have no idea what my show is going to be about on Monday.
So there would
I-
never be the thought of not doing the show, right?
Yeah,
You're doing it because. So why are you doing one?
Well, this is where I will go back, and God bless Evernote for me. I have a notebook called Episode Ideas, and I just haven't looked at it in a while because I haven't needed to, because stuff kept popping up
Yeah.
with gear and interviews and cool stories. But now I'm kind of like, and I'm going to go to Evernote and go, oh yes, there was this, or let's talk about crutch words, or let's talk about, should I have my podcast on a separate website, and there's all sorts of ways for me to get answers. I can spend 10 minutes at Quora and find 3 ideas for an
It definitely
episode.
helps to jot down every idea you have when you have it. I think
Yes.
that's definitely a way to do it, to ease the stress of what the heck am I going to do? Because every week is a typical content production schedule, and it barrels down on you fast, right?
Yeah.
Really fast. Soon
Yeah.
as you push something out, that next one is coming right behind. And that's where it starts to feel really like a lot of pressure. And what I
Well-
was thinking about, Dave, when you said that, just one sec, is that I'm lucky in the case that I think I built the foundation, right? So the people who like the Podcaster Studio, they stick around, right? But you couldn't get away with that probably early on, or could you? And you just wouldn't build very fast. Like, so what are your goals, really? I think you have to know why the heck you're doing this. I do it for enjoyment, right? And when I, as opposed to the YouTube channel, which actually started making, I would call decent money. It's not like I'm going to make a living on it. Money changes that pressure, right? Because you think the checks get smaller, and you're like, well, wait, I want the better checks, as opposed to the podcast where more times than not, I think it's easier to monetize on YouTube than it is a podcast, and that's debatable, obviously. But money does change it. But anyways, I was just thinking that we've each built a foundation that allows us to then, I'm going to take a break or I'm not as regular, but you've built in an audience that enjoys your content and the way you deliver it. So I think there's a difference there between an established content creator and a new content creator. But really, what changes? You don't build as fast. I mean, does it matter? You're not trying to please a sponsor.
Yeah, I don't know if it really would matter if you're just starting out. I do think that when you are starting out, you should be willing to make a few more sacrifices if you are committed to it. Not if it's just for fun, not if it's just a hobby. Who cares? If you want to take a break, take a break. If you don't care about the audience. But if you want to grow an audience, if you want to grow your influence, as dirty as that word makes me sound or feel, then I think you definitely need to sacrifice and really commit to grinding it out, because no matter what platform you're on, and regardless of how cliche it sounds, it is a tremendous grind making content and growing an audience and developing trust with your audience. I think that is the most difficult thing, growing that respect between yourself and your audience so that they will actually trust what you're saying or want to hear what you're saying.
I think that brings up an interesting point of if you care about your audience, if you want to build trust with your audience, like there's pressure in that, right? When
Mhm.
you're starting out, you're like, I'm really started a podcast because I wanted to speak into a microphone and just geek out on the thing I do. But now I have an audience and people who rely on me. Like, what is the, let's unpack a little bit of the I now have to respect the audience that has shown up to geek out with me. Like, there's always
So
this fear that you're not respecting the audience if you don't show up that week.
so on the note of respecting my audience, I have a little bit of a different take because I do audio gear reviews. And if I were to start to phone it in or start to put out misinformation or incorrect information,
That's a little different. If you're
yeah,
misleading, it's different. But
yeah, but I think it really does come down to showing people that they can trust you as a good source. And as your audience does grow, that does add pressure. That's something that may have contributed to burnout, actually, because I have over the last year started to realize, oh crap, the things that come out of my mouth have weight. I need to think good, long, and hard about every single thing that I'm saying, because I received an email from a company that I made a bad review about, begging me to take down the review because it hurt their sales so much. And I was like, I'm sorry, but no, it was a bad microphone. You did a really bad job on this thing. But my words have weight to them. And as your audience grows, you have more responsibility that could lead to that added pressure.
Wait till they threaten to sue you. That's even
Oh.
more fun.
that's
No
that's,
thanks.
Yeah.
I'm burned out and I'm going home.
Yeah.
Yeah. At that point, I'm packing up.
I'm not even
Yeah.
making money at this, and you want to take all the money I make doing something else.
Yeah. I was like, you're kidding me, right? No, we're not.
We're not.
I should have called their bluff, but I changed my article. So
Hey, all right. So
I didn't take it down. That was
we've
my
established we're content creators. We're all burned out. Let's talk a little bit about dealing with it. Bandrew, how have you dealt with this new overwhelming feeling of I got too much on my plate?
It really has come back to rediscovering the stuff that I enjoy. So it has been watching way too many horror films. If anybody were to look at my watch history or my DVD stack, they would think I'm an insane person. Also, finding time to play more guitar, because that's the first thing that I started doing. Just actually picking up the guitar. And from your tweet, Ray, dang you, I downloaded Musician.
Oh yeah, dude, it's good
So
stuff.
there's been times where my fingers have been about to bleed playing the bass and the guitar, and it's just been so much fun.
This
Just
episode not
decompressing.
brought to you by Musician. It should be.
It
I
should
don't
be.
endorse the product. Let's see. I found it because of YouTube app. A really, really bad YouTube ad. There's a bass hanging right there on my wall because of. Well, no, that's why I found Musician. But, yeah, we missed a really huge opportunity to have Bandrew open the show with a guitar riff, and so that is just why I'm going to bring you back.
Yeah, I'll have to be back because I can't play my electric guitar or I'll get evicted.
Yeah, completely different story. If you followed Bandrew's channel, you'll know all about that. He throws boxes, empty boxes, gearboxes, and that does not please his neighbor, apparently.
Yeah, the boxes and the guitar amp. So I have a solution. I am very once I get this solution, I'm not going to spoil it, but oh my god, I am so excited. I am so excited, and it will reinvigorate me.
Wow, that's very cool. Dave,
well, for me, I have told myself, because I'm just from now, I'm going to New York this coming next weekend, and I get home for one day and then go to Florida. So I've told myself, I have it on my calendar already, like decompress post Podfest, because I right now I'm working, like tonight, I want to submit my speaker thing. That's the technical term for it at Podcast Movement. I've been saying that for 21 days. Every day it's like, I got to submit that thing to Podcast Movement. I got to get it in. Well, I got a week and I've got my topic. I just want to make some slides for them. Nothing too crazy, but it's always like, it's 11:30 and I'm like, all right, I'll do it tomorrow. So I know somewhere between now and Podfest, I'm just going to cram it all in. And so I've told myself, when you come back, the zig needs to zag now. Okay, I understand. I'm going to put myself through the grinder a little bit, and I've just blocked off time, and I've just told myself that is not to move. Doesn't matter what's going on. That's not going to move, because you just, like Bandrew said, I want to play the guitar. I'm with him. I have one sitting in my living room. Even if I get to play it for like 4 minutes, for me, that's like better than aspirin. And it's just to chill out and not think about podcasting. And this makes me sound like I hate podcasting. I love podcasting. That's why I can stay up till 2 a.m. to do it. It's just in the morning when your body wakes up and goes, yeah, that wasn't a good idea. And then you're running on adrenaline. And after a while you run out of adrenaline.
It took me 40 years to realize, wow, I have to get enough sleep. That was ruining me. Like I finally, and that only means getting in bed by midnight. Doesn't mean going to sleep at midnight, but it's baby steps. But it's helping, I guess.
Well, can we talk about one other thing?
Nope. And we can talk about 5 other things.
I'm going to call this the Gary V factor, and I'm okay. I've read Gary V's books, but I get worried when I hear about just screw it. Nobody needs to sleep. You get out there and push it hard. And if you want to do this, forget about Xbox, buddy. You
work
focus
till your eyes bleed is what he says. I love that line actually, because I do kind of buy into that. Not buy into it, but I grind till my eyes bleed, like work it out. But the age has pushed a different.
Well, and I just worry about that because people lose focus of family, friends, kids, whatever, and all in the pursuit of, all right, I got 1,000 subscribers finally. It's like, okay, 1,000. Yeah.
It's what are you really doing? Like, what are you doing? Mm-hmm. Like, are you getting paid for this? Is it, if you don't show up, will you not get a paycheck? Most people, no, it's not the case. Mm-hmm. You're showing it for the audience. Sure. Right. Okay, good. They'll be disappointed if I'm not there on Monday, but will it end? Will it go away? Like, you really have to know got to put it in perspective of why you started, why you keep going, and like how do you make it sustainable, right? So Bandrew, I mean, one of your strategies was you cut down your schedule, right?
Yeah, just roll back the schedule, be honest with the audience about why you're doing it. It's not going to be permanent.
I was going to say, did you roll back permanently, or is it you're going to ramp it back up? Like you feel, so just as you heal, you're going to then put yourself back in the same place?
I'm not going to do it right away. I'm allowing my time. myself time to relax and recuperate, and then I need to come up with a way to make it more sustainable. I need to find a workflow that will not make me get to the same point of just exhaustion. So it's not going to be tomorrow. It's not going to be next week. It may not be next month that I ramp it back up, but eventually I will. And that's because there's so much cool gear that I enjoy talking about. And I think I have 30 things on my desk that I need to review.
Wow.
And that would take me half a year with one video per week. So
Now, do you feel pressure when you see that stack?
only if it's stuff that I'm not excited about. That's something that I struggle with when I have to review a lot of these mass-produced Chinese microphones that are just the same microphone rebranded. I just want to put my head through the dang wall. But when it's a new blue microphone, not the new Yeti, the new Blue Ember, or if it's the new Pod mic, whenever that comes out, I'm excited about that. And I legitimately have fire. I'm just like, I got to get my hands on that and play with it and share how cool this thing is. It's so much fun. So if it's a stack of stuff that I think is interesting, no, there's no pressure or dread. But when it's a stack of garbage microphones that I know aren't going to be fun or not going to be good, then absolutely.
All right, 7-year-old needs a snack. I took one last bite and sent it on with her. Cliff Bar. I mean, we are living on energy bars. I don't know, just energy bar. That's like an old mountain biking term. We're living on Cliff Bar, not a sponsor, which may be a sign of burnout. I didn't even eat lunch today, you guys. So the upside is that one beer is like, hey, I'm good. But you know what that does? What are the signs? You know, personally for me, I definitely feel burnout. I mean, I think the year before last was the year of no, I called it. It was trying to just say no to things. I mean, I was talking to my daughter, but I heard you talking about like, you know, like poorly made microphones or something. And I get approached constantly. Like if you do gear reviews on YouTube for any amount of time, the worst manufacturers will reach out and say, hey, pimp our stuff, right? And you're like, no thanks.
Yep.
And I say no. I don't even respond, to be honest with you. A lot of stuff goes to the trash. But once in a while, those opportunities are really good. And it's like, man, I don't have time to fit that in, but I don't want to say no. And that's a really tough one. I mean, I heard you mention I have gear on my desk right now that technically needs to be reviewed. I'm using it and I'll get there. But I think it was Heather in the chat mentioned something, one word that it has all come down to for me, and that's prioritizing things. And for me, I think I wrote that list somewhere, but for me, really it's work. I mean, because a lot of us, that is the thing. And going back to what I kind of talked about in the beginning, most people don't realize, hey, that person actually has a day job. That's not how they make their living. Like they think, well, you're not here this week, you know, but that's how you make your living. You know, there's a lot of assumptions made on the internet. And that's the beauty of podcasts, is that you are able to communicate to your audience. This is a thing I do on the side, or you have more chance to speak to them in a real way. And but yeah, I mean, for me, it has to be work first, then it's, you know, family, even myself, and then it's maybe content, because content is for me a hobby. Yes. Does it make money? Yes. Do I consider that my income? No. That is like a side benefit of making content. It's certainly not why I started making content. So you really have to prioritize. And I may not have done it right all the time, where sometimes I'm like, I just don't show up for months. When I go quiet, you know, I've probably taken on something that I consider something that I feel like I should do, and I have to burn something. Something has to get burned down. And a lot of times that's, you know, you don't see an Instagram story from me from like a month. It's a priority. It's a priority type thing. A lot of it is like, what can I do? How much of it can I do? And I want to produce regular content all the time, but you know, for me, it's been like if you follow me on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, podcast, you'll get something from me consistently. It just, you don't know what platform it's going to be on. So it's not the best model, but again, to myself, I have to say, this is what I do for fun. This is what I do for fun. So it has to be fun.
Exactly. Sorry, go ahead, Dave.
Go ahead.
Yeah, that's something that I have. It took me a long time to realize, and I've heard it on Better Podcasting a lot. I know that's a friend of the show.
Mm-hmm.
It is. This is your hobby. If it's not fun, why are you doing it? So make sure that it is fun. And for me, again, this is a hobby. So if it's making me miserable, why would I do it? If somebody is doing something that's making them miserable to fill in their free time, why would you be doing that?
You know what's tough is because you do start that way and then it starts to make money.
Mm-hmm.
And then things change, right? Again, you're like, well, if I stop, I'm used to getting that money.
Right.
Sponsors aren't going to come. People aren't going to ask me to review stuff. I'm going to drop behind everyone else. So it does change, because if you got in because you love it, you probably create good content because you love it. You probably show up regularly because you love it. And that gets recognized by third parties. And they say, wow, we want this person talking about our stuff. And so, I mean, probably all of us have had that. Bandrew, I'm sure you make money from the YouTube channel you have. Dave, there's got to be money in it for you. You have the School of Podcasting. How does so it almost is like it evolves. It starts as passion, and almost inevitably, unless you're just like, I refuse to take money because this is my hobby, and cool, you've prioritized that. But how does it change it? How does starting off from passion and then it turns into something more? It doesn't have to be money. It could be number of followers. It could be recognition in the space, or speaking at a conference. If I drop off, I'm not going to be included in this year's podcast movement because I'm not relevant. All those things. Like, how does that evolution of becoming, and let's just call it an influencer? No one's throwing up. We're good. Okay. How does it change? Oh, wait. I almost vomited. Go ahead.
I'll let you go, Bandrew.
I don't know. I don't know how to quantify how it actually does change things. I know it does, and it's going to be different for every person. Yes, I make money with what I do, but do I personally see any of that money? No. I don't get to do anything fun with that because I made a terrible business decision to buy everything that I review to remain as, I guess, keep as much journalistic integrity as possible in most cases. So I made a bad decision to go down that road. So I don't see much of it. I think a way that it could very easily start to affect people is they feel like they need to adopt this certain lifestyle that you see all over social media. You see these large creators, these large influencers. I know, again, vomiting everybody who's listening, but you see them on yachts. You see them going out to dinner every night, going to bars, doing all these crazy things. And as you grow and as you make that money, you may think, I need to do that too to fit into the crowd. Well, you don't. You don't have to do that. Be smart with your money. If you're starting to get paid, save some money for God's sake. And don't let it dictate everything that you're deciding to do with the endeavor. Because once you let the money start telling you, you got to do this to make X dollars, it'll backfire. Just look at YouTube and ad deals. There is always a drama because somebody advertised a shady company for a bag of $200,000, and that creator gets so much hate, and it could easily destroy somebody. So I don't know how, but it can. Long-winded way of saying that.
In the immortal words of Cyndi Lauper, money changes everything. But for me, it's weird because it's about somehow trying to get this pie of life, health, hobby, money, marketing, SEO. That's the fun thing. You get in. I want to talk into a microphone. Wait, what? Keywords? And wait, no, huh? And now I got to get my domain authority number up. There's another stat I can track and obsess over. And I can't yet balance when my weight goes up. And then I will all right, that's enough. I'm at my right now. I'm at my heaviest I ever get, which is 225, which is my crap. And all right, so something's going to give and I'm going to change. and I will focus on that for however, and I'll get down to like 210. And then I'll like, okay, well, this is going good now. This is good. Got this going. And then you start doing this. And I can't find the balance to where my weight goes down, my podcasts go up, the money goes up. It's like whack-a-mole. And that's when I figure it out, I'll let you know. There's this other thing called life where you don't have control over everything. And that then, of course, because you have no control, leads to back to our main point, stress and burnout. I don't know if that makes any sense, but
yeah, no, the chat's pretty good. It's a lot of fun in there. Bang says a bag of $200,000 buys a lot of ethics. And the eldest bro
true.
apparently follows Jason Vaughn because he says don't get gas, which is gear acquisition syndrome, which I definitely have a lot of gas. And Sean says in being fair to Gary Vaynerchuk, he said watch the video clarifying my thoughts on hard work, hustle, and happiness. I think I'm definitely a fan of Gary, but I mean, with Gary, anything that he says enough that at some point you're gonna be like, yeah, but that thing. So that's what you do when you put yourself out there. So, but he's got good stuff, so it's probably a good video. I haven't seen that one.
And then the other thing that I think we should maybe talk about, there is another option. I know I have, Chris Ducker calls it Superman syndrome, where we try to do everything ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And I have, I think twice, outsourced my audio editing. And again, the sun came up the next day. Nobody complained about it on my show. It's just because I can do it for free, of course, because I'm not charging myself to edit my own stuff. I do it, and I could easily hand off a lot of that stuff to somebody else. But then, of course, they want paid because, well, they're doing their thing and they're checking their stats. And I think some of this could be eliminated a little bit with if I outsourced more stuff. And
I mean, we say time is money, but time is probably sanity. Like having that extra time. So if you do find yourself, a lot of times we talk about with podcasting and money is that, you're not doing it to get rich, but if you can get some money out of it, it might pay your hosting cost, but maybe it pays for that person to edit your podcast, right? And to save your ability to show up every week. I think it's a decent strategy, right? I mean, even like a Patreon campaign that says, hey, I want to be here every week, but I need an editor. Like, please contribute. It's perfectly valid.
Well, Heather asked a question. She goes, how do you feel about asking for help? And one of the things I always say is you either pay for things with time or money. And kind of my running gag is I'm a good teacher. That's my background. I'm a horrible marketer. So this year I actually put out a fair amount of money as a business coach. You said, okay, that's horrible. You need this, you need that. And he's my accountability partner. And I'm already seeing things go better in that department, but I'm not spending hours researching all this stuff. They're like, no, here, just do this. We've already done the research. This works. And I'm doing that. So it's one of those things where it didn't make me feel bad. It was just like, okay, I need to realize that this is what I'm good at, making tutorials and things like that. And I'm spending way too much time doing things that I'm going to be meh at best. Let's find somebody who knows how to do this and just tell me what to do or let them do it. And then you end up with better results. It's hard for me to let go of anything, especially if I can do it, even if it's poorly. If I can somehow do it, I still like, oh, well, I'll get better if I do more of it. Well, okay, but you don't become Tom Brady overnight and being a SEO guru or a web designer. That's not going to happen overnight. But well, if I just, put in my 1,000 hours or 10,000 hours, or however many hours Malcolm Gladwell wants us to get, so that's something, and that's new for me this year. I normally don't outsource anything, and I've already started doing a couple, and that was kind of my thing at the beginning of the year. I'm like, I'm going to not say no to partnerships, or I'm just kind of like, what's the worst that could happen here is kind of my motto for this year, because it's just in the long game, this isn't going to sustain because, well, I'm getting older, so I can't keep up this pace till I'm 70. I will still be podcasting when I'm 70, but not at this pace. So that's just something I'm looking at. So it wasn't hard for me, I guess, at this point to reach out, because I just realized I'm being stupid.
That's something that I've come to realize about myself as well. There's certain things that I am terrible at. If I try to make artwork, it will end up looking like a kindergarten art project. So when it comes to creating actual logos or podcast art, I will hire somebody and pay them pretty good money to get something that I'm actually happy with and I won't hate a week later. So in that regard, 100%, I am happy with handing over the reins and letting somebody who's better suited to do it. As far as editing and all of that, my workflow wouldn't allow for it.
Yeah.
Because the time to send something to somebody and then have them edit it and send it back, I wouldn't be able to schedule it for release the next day because I'm recording it the day before, like a terrible person.
Well, that's me. My show, I do certain things that only I by the time I took all the time to write, here's what I want you to do with it, I could just do it. So I'm like, but if it's something like the podcast review show, I just said, here, take this and de-um it. I'll do the rest. I just don't want to have to listen to this again because it's 90 minutes long. And so I did that and I was like, oh, that was a really good idea. I need to do more of that.
Write my show notes and suddenly I'm podcasting every week. So there's an area where I can funnel some of that money to. Well, so as we wrap up here, what do we want to say to someone who's feeling burnt out? They've hit this point. Words of wisdom, strategies, anything like that, anything at all. For me, hold on, Major. For me, I would just say you got to give yourself a break. Like you either burn out and just go away, or you're there once in a while to still entertain the people who already enjoyed getting stuff from you. I'd rather not see the person go away. I mean, that's really the bottom line for me. And, I'm not paying these people most of the time for anything. So hopefully they're happy doing it. So, that's tough because I'm a content creator. So I understand the other side. Most people are not creators. If you're watching this, you're a creator, almost certainly. We have a different perspective, but I think even as a creator, you just have to learn how to give yourself a break and really put in perspective, like, what are you trying to get out of this thing? And, that will help drive how much you have to like sort of grind and put in the work. I mean, if you are trying to make a living at it, then that requires X amount of work. It's a different story, but I think most people get in for the love. So give yourself a break. Dave?
I have a question for you then, because remember how you said you did this one thing and you lost subscribers?
Yes.
And you made a change, right? You moved the one, I think you moved the Roundtable.
Yeah.
Yeah. So since you've done that, do you now have more subscribers than you did when you had them combined?
Can't tell because of the way the channels work.
But it's growing, right?
It's growing. Yes.
So eventually you will bypass that. So I just say that to say there are going to be times when you do something and it doesn't,
right.
and you're like,
two steps back.
Right. And you adjust and then you start moving forward and eventually you'll be further than you were when you made the boo-boo. So
people used to complain to me that they couldn't go to college when I was working a job I hated and I was in college. One class, one night a week for 3 hours. You'll be further down the road in 3 years than if you're just that person complaining that they can't do it. So even if you have to do it just a little bit to then work with your own sanity, you will be further than just sitting there saying, I can't do it. I'm not sure if I want to do it. Again, give yourself a break, back off. All right.
Yeah.
As if you're creating, create to, create for pleasure and then, let the rest happen.
Yeah. I want to second Bandrew's thing and then we'll let him wrap up. I just love the fact that he said, why would you do something that makes you miserable? Yeah. And it's so kind of like, duh, but there are a lot of people that are like, no, if I just push harder and harder, this is going to be fun eventually. And I'm like, no, it's probably not. If you really hate it.
The problem is though, I think you start and it is fun and then it becomes miserable and you don't want to stop. Like how many of us have podcasts where we said, I'll probably put one more. I'll probably get back to that. It's just sitting there. You didn't even end it officially. Guilty.
Yeah.
Because it's just, you can't let go. So there's where the problem lies is you start, it is fun. It's great to do the first 3 episodes. It's great to publish your first episode. You're like, yeah, podcasting. This is freaking awesome. I love building this thing. I got to show up next week. Burnt out.
SP in the chat room says, "Why would you do something that makes you miserable?" He says, "It's called marriage, guys."
Oh, that's a little insight to SP, but
yeah, there we
I
go.
get the joke. But being married myself, if you're watching this, no way.
Right, never a case. So,
Best thing
Bandrew,
ever.
words of wisdom from the Bandrew.
I would say once you set a schedule that is manageable for you, don't start comparing yourself to other creators. That will lead you down a deep, dark path that you do not want to go down. So don't do it. Then also don't be afraid to be honest with your audience. I was scared of doing that for a year. Then finally I was like, hey, I'm burned out. And they understood and they were supportive and they said, go ahead and take a break. Take as much time as you need. We'll be here when you get back. So don't compare yourself. Have a schedule that works for you. And then if you do get to a point where you need a break or need some help, be honest. Be honest about it, because keeping it all buried deep inside is, like I said, is a deep, dark path you don't want to go down. And do as I say, not as I do, because I don't follow my own advice.
Yeah, that's the hardest part, is that we sometimes know the answers, but we don't do it.
Right.
And Heather in the chat says, don't isolate yourself. Have a support network of some sort. That could be anything, right? That could be anyone.
My Discord server is a tremendous support network for me. When a few years ago, before I started it, I felt very isolated, and then I started that, and it was like, oh my God, there's so many people to hang out with, and I have some amazing friends there that I just hang out with every single evening, pretty much, just chat with them. So
when I was at Podcast Movement, I think it was, and there were a bunch of us that we all work from home, and we were talking about how we never actually get to have an actual conversation with human beings. Like, I will go to get groceries and want to talk philosophy with the checker outer girl. I just can't take it. And we all said, well, this is dumb. We're all in the same boat. And we exchange phone numbers. And every now and then we would just get on the phone, and you have these really long conversations because you haven't talked to an actual human being in a week and a half.
It is dangerous. If I call any of you on Skype, I'm going to record it, because it's going to be an epic. I need content, you guys. I can't exchange healing time for content time. They're the same thing. They're the same thing.
There you go.
All right. I'm trying to get Bandrew on that wagon. I'm going to have him on Overheard, the patron only podcast. Anyways, all right. All right, you guys. This is a great place to exit. The train's going off the tracks. Dave, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This was actually really cool. You can find me over at schoolofpodcasting.com.
Yeah, hopefully this is a little bit of it's a little therapeutic for anyone who's listening, saying, I'm not alone. We've all felt it. We're all dealing with burnout. I think it's extremely common. You always think the person on the other side of the camera and microphone is just not what you're experiencing, going through the same thing. We're content creators. These things come up. So don't feel alone. Reach out if you need support. Any one of us would hit you in a DM, email, whatever. So definitely do that. Bandrew, thanks for joining us on your first, and it can't be your last. It has many to come.
Now that I'm on a break or I've slowed down my production schedule, my Thursday evenings are open.
I'm really helping you take a break by saying, now you created free time for yourself. Get on my show.
Yeah. But thank you very much for having me. I've been listening for years. I don't even know anymore. It's so much fun. But if anybody wants to check out what I do, you can listen to my podcast at bandrewsays.com, both audio and video there, or you can check out my reviews, youtube.com/podcastage.
Very cool. Kenny in the chat says, listening to you guys makes me feel normal. I'm not sure what that says about us, but I am glad you are one of us. And podcastersroundtable.com/guest. If you want to be on a roundtable, we will get you on. That is the way to go. And 127 next time. So yeah, see you later. Wave goodbye. Adios.